Hello, everyone. Welcome to Van in Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. This is episode 40, season 2. I'm your host, Pete Costanis, and we have a very interesting show coming up. But right now we'll go into a commercial break, and this program is brought to you by Good and Plenty Candy. And here is an old commercial featuring Choo Choo Charlie. Take it away, Charlie.
Once upon a time there was an engineer.
Choo-choo Charlie was his name, we hear.
He had an engine and he sure had fun. He used Good and Plenty candy to make his train run.
Charlie says, love my Good and Plenty. Charlie says, really rings the bell. Charlie says, love my Good and Plenty. Don't know any other candy that I love so well.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I'm glad you enjoyed that commercial. That Good and Plenty candy is still around. I haven't had it in a long time, but I used to love it as a kid. The candy was coated over black licorice, and it came in two colors, pink and white. And I do remember Choo Choo Charlie, the commercials. They were fun to watch, and they also had Good and Fruity, and then that was like that was a good candy too. But I prefer, excuse me, Good and Plenty, and a lot of people don't like black licorice, but I do. But I also like Twizzlers. I still eat them once in a while, so that was fun to listen to. Anyway, thank you for joining me. We have an interesting show coming up on my podcast, and we will talk about two things. First, we'll talk about shock theater. And the second thing I will talk about is Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor and Restaurant. So that should be fun. And now we'll start off with shock theater. Now, shock theater, a lot of people don't remember that, but it was very memorable to us older people. Not older than me, that is. The show came out in the late 50s and it only ran for 2 years. So I'll give you a brief history of that. And it's very interesting. So here we go. Shock Theater was a program that showed classic horror films from Universal Studios, and it was for television syndication. And so it was not just marketed in Chicago; it was just marketed in other cities as well. It's like, for example, New York, Philadelphia, probably Detroit, I assume. And this was the predecessor of Creature Features, which aired on WGN-TV Channel 9 starting on September 19th, 1970. And even for Screaming Yellow Theater, that starred Jerry G. Bishop as Svengoolie, the original Svengoolie. And there were others, programs like that in Chicago that played horror movies, some from Universal Studios, other from the Hammer Studios in England, and other independent studios. So I will talk about Creature Features and Screaming Yellow Theater in more detail in future episodes, preferably Halloween. That would be a lot of fun. So just look forward to that. And so I'll give you the history of that on when it started in Chicago. Okay. And let's see. So that went on the Shock Theater went on the air on December 7th, 1957, and it premiered at 10 o'clock in the evening on WBKB Channel 7. Now, I've mentioned this before. That's WLS, which is now. They changed the call letters from WBKB to WLS on October 1968. And, it's, I've mentioned this many times before, so maybe I'll do an episode of call letters of television shows. Like, for example, went from Channel 2 and Channel 7, and Channel 5, which was not WMAQ, it was WNBQ. So that'd be interesting. That'll be an interesting topic to discuss in a later episode. Anyway, the show, like I said, it premiered in December 7, 1957, and the host was a guy named Marvin. And sometimes he was called either Mad Marvin or Marvin the Nearsighted Madman. And his character was a demented beatnik who wore thick glasses like Coke bottles. And he wore a black turtleneck sweater. And he didn't look scary. He looked sort of bizarre. He was, but he did frightening things as I continue to speak about that. And so he was the first television horror host in Chicago, right before Svengoolie and the current Svengoolie, played by Rich Koz. So Marvin was he was the first, and he was played by a man named Terry Bennett, a very talented man from Brooklyn, New York, and when it was premiered, it didn't take off right away, so it took a while, for the character to catch on. Also, the program, that is, and it also featured his wife. Excuse me, and her name was Dear. And she was played by Terry Bennett's real life wife, Joy Bennett. And you never saw her face. Excuse me. Never saw her face. And she was, so you only saw her from the back. And that was only revealed at the last episode. I'll get into that in a few minutes. Anyway, the program showed horror movies from Universal. The first movie that premiered was the 1931 movie Frankenstein. And Marvin appeared in the commercial breaks. And I read somewhere in a book, I will talk about the book in a second, that when Marvin finished introducing the film, they didn't show the opening credits, which is bizarre. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why the station didn't allow that. They just went to the beginning of the film, which is strange. Oh boy, that was very strange. Anyway, excuse me for coughing. So they showed, then later movies came on. It was The Wolfman, 1931, The Wolfman, the 1941 movie, The Wolfman, 1931 movie, Dracula. Their sequels, and they were often repeated. So when it went on commercial break, Marvin would say some comments, perform some acts, and he would constantly perform experiments or amputations on deer. Oh, that poor girl. And she would always be back to normal by the next commercial break, which is bizarre. Back then, a lot of people got frightened by that. And so he also had supporting cast. And other characters were on the show. There was a guy named Orville. He was a hunchback like Igor. And Shorty. He was a giant wearing a rubber Frankenstein mask. And there was also a band called the Deadbeats, and who were the members of the Art Van Dam Quintet. And they wore white makeup and with black circles around their eyes. So, but then the program expanded an extra hour. And so there was a new half-hour segment after the movie, and it was called the Shocktail Party. And those guys appeared in that. And so that was an interesting. This premiered right before I was born, and then when I grew up, I heard about this show as time went on, and and I didn't give a second thought about it. So as I got older, then I became very intrigued about this, very intrigued indeed. So right now I will play a clip, which I found on YouTube. It's the beginning of the show, and this lasts about a minute and 40 seconds. And the clip is credited by a man named Terry Tiz, T-I-Z. And I want to thank him for that. And then so I will play the clip right now, and you can listen to the introduction of Shock Theater starring Marvin. Here we go.
Take a look. Take a look at these headlines, huh? Take a look. Take a look at that. What do you think of that, huh?
Just go a little closer there. You see it right there?
You've been a flat tire at every party we went to. That's right, you old windbag. Let's see if this really works now. Just hold this up to your mouth. Here's how the whole thing works. Remember people saying you were full of hot air? What's this? I'm going to do something that's really I've been trying to do for a long time. See, I take the pencil, I make the line there with a ruler. Right there. What am I doing? We're going to print the newspaper, the shock absorber. See? Yeah, now here's how it works. You take the little letters from the Tinker Toy set there. C. Here. O. O. M. M. You know spelling out? You give up? Commercial. C-O-M-M-E. R. Oh, it's the deadbeat. Deadbeat's here. Hey, I put the glasses on. I knew you were coming. Oh, I did. Oh, that's pretty funny, huh?
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed that introduction to Shock Theater. The host, Terry Bennett, he had a very interesting career. So he was born in Brooklyn, New York, and he was born in I forgot the date, 1930. So he was a ventriloquist in a very interesting career, and so yeah, here's the date. I'm sorry. He was born April 25th, 1930, and he started ventriloquism at the age of 10, and he entered talent shows, and he appeared on television shows in the early 50s, the Arthur Godfrey show, and the Kate Smith Hour. And then he did touring, he traveled around the country, and then he met his wife, Joy Bennett, in Tampa, Florida. And then after he went into the military service, when he returned, they got married in 1953. And he had the ventriloquist dummy. His name was Red Flannels. So yeah, it wasn't actually his. Someone gave it to him, and then he came to Chicago in 1954, and then he joined the staff at WBKB Channel 7, and he was a writer, producer, on-air promotion director. He was jack of all trades, and I think he was in advertising, and I think he did ads for Polk Brothers appliance store. And then someone approached him from the television station, and they asked him, "Do you want to host the horror show, Shock Theater?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then, so when I don't know where he get the idea, where he got the glasses and the beatnik. During that time in the late 50s and early 60s, it was the beatnik mood, and that was like you would write poetry, go to coffee houses and smell incense, stuff like that. Very interesting. And then, so he was a very popular guy, and people found out where he lived in Chicago. He lived in Schiller Park, and they would call his house day and night, but he didn't mind. He didn't get he didn't freak out or yelled at him, so that was good. And then he had his own fan club called the Marvin Fan Club, and there are clips of him on YouTube that he visited Wrigley Field with his wife, and also at Lincoln Park Zoo. And I read somewhere that he was traveling around State Street by the studios in a hearse. That was been interesting. I wish there was a clip of that. And then when the show went off the air in I think October 1959, and then it was replaced. So a lot of people petitioned to bring it back. Didn't work. And besides, I heard Terry Bennett didn't want to continue, and he wanted to do something else. So I'll talk about his career in a future episode. I'll go into more detail, and then unfortunately he died in a young age, and he was 47 years old. He died on October 12th, 1977. He lived in Tampa and Florida, that is. And his wife, Joy, I think she died around 2005. So, she reminisced in a couple interviews about the show, her husband, and his talent. And then also I want to mention that there are 2 books about shock theater, which that you would find very interesting. One book is called, it goes into more detail of the show, and it's called Shock Theater, Chicago Style. It's on paperback. You can find it on Amazon or eBay. I read the book, but I got it out of the library. And I think I'm trying to remember which library. I went into Hotchkiss, Illinois, not too far from my house, because it was hard to find. And I might buy it someday, to keep. And then I read it. It was fascinating book. That how the show got started, how Terry Bennett, how he created a Marvin character and all that. And it's a really fascinating book, very, very well detailed, well informed. The author's name is Donald F. Glut. So if you do a Google search, you will find it. You won't be disappointed. It's a very good book. And the other book I want to mention is called From Shock Theater to Svengoolie, Chicago TV Horror Movie Shows. And that was written by 2 men, Ted Akuda and Mark Yurkiw. I don't know if I pronounced his name. His name is spelled Yurkiw. And I have that book at home. I bought it myself a long time ago, and I love it. And also just not features Shock Theater, features Svengoolie, creature features. There was other horror TV shows that showed the horror movies. There was Thrillerama from Channel 5. There was also, I can't think of a freaky film of the week that was on Channel 7 that came in the late 60s. And there was also Monster Rally that showed on WSNS, Channel 44. There were others. So you can pick up that book. You could do a Google search as well on that book. It's on Amazon. I love the book. It's great and really great. Okay. That'll be enough for Shock Theater. Now, the next thing I will talk about is Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. And I posted a photo on my page, on my Facebook page, Van Chicagoland, and on all my social media accounts. And it was a newsletter from Fort City Shopping Center. And it showed that it was the newsletter said that Farrell's was coming to Fort City, and it would be opened on April, I forget the exact date, but it's late April 1977. So I'll go into more detail about my memories of that place, but right now here is a commercial of Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. It's not from Chicago, and it's from the early 1980s. So here we go.
When Deanne had her 8th birthday party at Farrell's, even the Beasley brothers had fun. When Jake the Snake had his birthday at Farrell's, the whole group wanted to come. In fact, there's only one place so crazy, so totally wacko, that everybody has a party. Farrell's. Because whether you're 6 or 14 or right in between, you always have a party at Farrell's.
Okay, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial. I'll give you a brief history about Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. It was founded in Portland, Oregon, 1963, and then expanded to California, Hawaii, all over the country, all over the United States, that is. And I'll tell you, the only locations I remember in Chicago was, I mentioned before, at Ford City Shopping Center on the southwest side of Chicago. It was also in North Riverside, and also at Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. And it started. Became well known when the kids had a birthday party, they would get a free ice cream sundae. And the setting of the restaurant was like it had a theme with early 1900s, and the employees were wearing dresses and straw boater hats, and they feature a player piano. It looked like an old-fashioned, like from the silent movies. I went there once at Fort City. I went to a birthday party. It was a fun place. The food was good. They also had a menu, not just ice cream. They had sandwiches, hamburgers, hot dogs. But their specialty was, ice cream sodas. And, sundaes, banana splits, and all that. So I have a menu, and I'll go very quickly on this. And so they had hamburgers, hot dogs. They also had hot fudge sundaes. Also, they had a section called Belly Busters. And the interesting things they had on Belly Busters, they had 5 things. It was the Gibson Girl, the Mauna Kea, Farrell's Zoo, Madame Pele's Volcano, Tapanet, and of course the Pig's Trough. And that is the biggest one that you had so much ice cream and toppings and hot fudge, and it was like a trough, like a horse would eat. And if you ate that, if you ate one by yourself, they won't charge you for it. And that's interesting. And or if you had a friend that you both join in and you can eat the whole thing. This thing was huge. It was huge. It was like a big platter of ice cream and all that. I could have done that when I was a kid to eat it, but now I just can't. It's not at my age. That would be. I love ice cream, but not that much. Anyway, so Farrell stayed in business. It left the Chicagoland area in the early 1980s, but it stayed in California and Portland for many years, and in Hawaii. Okay, and then the last one closed was in Hawaii. And no, actually, I'm sorry. It was not Hawaii. It was in California. It was in Brea, California. That was the last one. It was about 2 years ago. So there was discussion about bringing it back, but that didn't happen. So hopefully, you never know. You never know, because people still remember that. They loved the ice cream. They loved the atmosphere of the restaurant, and so An interesting thing about the ice cream parlor, there was on the Bob Newhart show, that starred Bob Newhart in the 70s. The characters went to a place that looked like Farrell's, and it looked similar. It's kind of eerie. I remember watching this show, and the employee that played was John Ritter from Three's Company, and he wore the old-fashioned costume, with the straw hat and the striped outfit, and he was, I think I remember he was kind of obnoxious. So, way to go, John. Okay. So that'll be all for today about the Shock Theater and Ice Cream Parlor. Please follow me and subscribe to my podcast, Vanishing Chicagoland Stories. I will upload this on my social media accounts, and you can also listen on YouTube, on my YouTube channel called Vanishing Chicagoland Stories. Also, I want to one last mention that September is Bozo's Circus Month on Vanishing Chicagoland. I will do some special things for that. I will create a video. I will write a story on my blog and also do a podcast, and they'll all be on my blog, Vanishing Chicagoland Stories.blog. You can find me there. Okay, and so thank you for joining me. This is episode 40, season 2. I'm your host, Pete Costanis, and hopefully I will do the next episode this coming weekend. Be a nice treat for everybody. So bye-bye for now for me, and now here's bye-bye for now from Ray Rayner, and take it away, Ray.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.